One moment I was training, pushing myself harder than ever, and the next I felt reality tear open around me. It wasn't a portal I recognized, nothing like the ones I've felt before. This one pulled at me like it wanted to crush my bones and rip the energy out of my body. When I finally broke through the distortion, the universe I knew was gone. I couldn't sense a single familiar key signature. No Goku, no Earth, nothing at all. Only a cold, empty darkness stretching farther than I could measure. I landed on hard metal ground that felt old and dead. The air was thick with smoke, ash, and the stink of burned machines. The sky looked like it had been punched full of holes. Towers lay broken, war machines were torn apart, and giant armored bodies lay scattered everywhere. Everything was covered with skull markings, like this whole place worshipped death. I tried to sense life, but whatever life existed here felt twisted and scared. It wasn't just fear of battle, it was fear that had become a way of living. Before I could even take a breath, I heard heavy footsteps slow, thunderous, shaking the metal beneath me. A group of huge armored warriors marched toward me, each as tall as a small building. Their armor was thick and painted with symbols I didn't understand, and they pointed massive weapons straight at my chest. Their energy was strange strong for humans, but compared to me, barely a spark. I raised my hands to show I wasn't interested in fighting, but they didn't listen. They opened fire instantly. Their shots exploded against my skin like weak fireworks. I didn't block because I wanted to show off. I blocked because I was confused. I didn't know this world, and I didn't want to destroy anyone without understanding why they saw me as a threat. Their leader shouted orders, and they tried to surround me. I pushed forward, grabbed one of their weapons, and snapped it in half without any effort. That only made them panic more. I could feel that their minds were trained to expect danger everywhere, and they had no idea how to react to someone like me. In their eyes, I was another monster in a galaxy full of monsters. When they called for reinforcements, I decided I had seen enough. I lifted into the air. The way their helmets jerked upward told me flying was not normal here. They stared like they were seeing something impossible. I followed their ship as it fled, trying to understand where they came from and what kind of universe this was. As I moved through this strange galaxy, I felt waves of psychic energy all around me. It wasn't key. It wasn't even close. It was chaotic, wild, and alive, like some invisible monster was breathing down my neck. It pulled my attention toward a place I later learned was the warp. I didn't fear it, but it felt like nothing I had ever sensed before it became clear to me very quickly. This wasn't a normal fight. This entire galaxy was built on war, and everything in it was struggling just to exist. Whatever dragged me here didn't bring me to a battlefield, brought me to a universe where the battlefield never ends. And if this universe wanted to test me, I was ready to show it exactly who I am. The armored giants dragged me onto their warship with caution, like they expected me to explode at any moment. Their armor clanked loudly, and their voices stayed tense whenever they spoke to me. Even without sensing their key, I could feel their fear. They didn't hide it well. They kept calling me a Xenos, a word they used like an insult. I didn't know their language fully yet, but I understood the tone. They thought I was dangerous simply because I existed. As I walked through their ship, they talked about their emperor with a kind of devotion I had never heard before. They described him as a god, a savior, the one holding their entire species together. Every sentence from them sounded like it came from desperation, like their belief was the only thing keeping them alive. They spoke of holy war, duty, faith, sacrifice. None of it felt like pride. It felt like fear carved into their bones. I tried to explain who I was, what a Saiyan actually is, but they couldn't understand. They kept assuming my power came from some warp mutation or forbidden magic. When I tried to sense their energy, I found nothing that resembled ki. Instead, I felt something unstable leaking through certain human psyche energy. Their minds were constantly under pressure, as if something invisible was always clawing at them from the inside. Some of them trembled just by standing near me, not because of my power, but because their own thoughts were being attacked by the warp when we reached one of their cities. I finally understood the truth of their lives. Billions of people packed into endless metal structures. No freedom, no peace. Loudspeakers everywhere shouting orders and warnings. Soldiers watching every corner. People praying constantly, not out of joy, but out of fear of what might come if they stopped. I asked one soldier why they lived like this, and he listed enemy after enemy chaos. Tyranids, orcs, necrons, eldar, and so many others that it sounded like the entire galaxy wanted to eat them alive. I could sense the weight on their shoulders. Their emperor wasn't a ruler. He was their last hope to not vanish entirely. They showed me their factories, their armies, their machines. Everything was built for war, and nothing felt alive. Their power was metal, not spirit. Their bodies relied on implants, armor, drugs, and belief. I tried teaching a group of soldiers how to feel ki, just a simple spark, but nothing happened. This universe didn't speak the same energy language. Only the psychers could feel a tiny flicker of my aura, and even they seemed in pain just trying. Then something slammed into my mind. A wave of psychic energy so twisted and hostile that I instantly knew what it was, the warp reaching for me. Voices whispered promises of power, command, control over entire worlds. Their corruption felt like slime trying to stick to my aura. I burned it away with pure ki, pushing the whispers back until the pressure shattered. The psychers around me collapsed in shock, calling me a miracle, a blessing, something impossible. Word spread fast. Soldiers stared like I was some prophecy walking in front of them, but it didn't feel like admiration. It felt like they wanted to use me, shape me, rely on me, and as I looked across their dying galaxy, I realized something else. Every enemy they feared had already sensed me too. The moment the warp opened above the planet, I felt the air twist like it was being squeezed by invisible hands. The sky tore apart, leaking purple and red light that pulsed like a heartbeat. Every living mind around me filled with panic. Even the Space Marines, with all their training and discipline, tightened their grips on their weapons. They prepared defenses, but their energy was shaking. I stepped forward and told them to stay back. This fight was mine. The first creatures crawled out of the rift with bodies made of shifting flesh and screaming faces. Their presence felt wrong, like they were made from nightmares trying to become real. Behind them marched corrupted soldiers, their armor covered in spikes and symbols that reeked of madness. Machines twisted by the warp dragged themselves forward like hungry animals. I felt their hatred flood toward me. It didn't scare me. It only made my blood heat up. I powered my aura and charged straight into them. The ground cracked beneath my feet as I launched forward. Every punch and kick tore through dozens at a time. Their bodies melted under the force of my attacks, turning into smoke and sparks that vanished before they hit the ground. Their corruption reached for me like claws, but my ki burned it away before it could touch me. They screamed my name, calling me the outsider who threatens the gods. As if they had already decided I was some kind of enemy to their twisted masters. The battle grew louder as more demons poured out of the rift. Some flew on wings made of bone. Some had blades for arms. Some didn't even have a shape I could understand. None of them could slow me down. Even so, the air around me felt heavier and heavier as the warp thickened. It was like fighting inside a storm made of insanity. Then the ground shook, and something massive stepped out of the rift. The greater demon towered over everything, its body covered in burning symbols. Its voice didn't come from its mouth. It forced its words straight into my mind. It promised me power, control, dominion over galaxies, anything I wanted if I joined chaos. I spit on the ground and refused. My answer triggered its rage, and the entire battlefield trembled. I let my power rise, pushing myself into Super Saiyan. The golden aura exploded outward, blowing dust and demons in every direction. Even from far away, I saw space marines fall to their knees from the pressure. The greater demon howled and charged. Its claws twisted time around them, making the air blur. Its psychic blast scraped against my mind, trying to tear into my thoughts. I pushed back with pure will and ki, refusing to let the warp touch my spirit. Our clash shook the sky. Every strike we traded sent shockwaves across the battlefield. I felt the warp biting at the edges of my aura, but I held firm. With one final burst of power, I tore through its chest and ripped its essence apart, making sure it couldn't reform. The rift above us cracked violently. A huge surge of unstable warp energy rushed outward. I gathered everything I had and fired a final flash into the distortion. The blast lit the sky and forced the rift to collapse. When the dust settled, the Imperium soldiers just stared. They didn't see a weapon or a prophecy anymore. They saw something their galaxy had never known, and knew my presence had just reached every corner of this broken universe. Word of my battle spread faster than I expected. Everywhere I went, different factions reacted.